So after being asked by my friends how to properly zero and use the sights on an AK rifle, I decided to make this short video with some down and dirty information and methodology to do it the correct way. So first and foremost, you have to understand that ballistic performance is based upon the round you're shooting. We're going to talk about 5.45 and 7.62 today. In the diagram here, you see that they have a very different flight path for the bullet. One's kind of more even and flat, the other's going to climb more and then rapidly descend faster. And this is why we're going to use this methodology. So while it may not appear that straightforward at first, at the end it should be pretty clear. The Soviet zero target is a rectangle that's 35 centimeters tall by 25 centimeters wide. You will aim at the bottom middle edge of the rectangle, and then based on the caliber you're shooting, your point of impact should be 5.1 inches higher for the 5.45 round or 9.8 inches higher for the 7.62 round. The reason we use a target with these dimensions is because the average male is 25 centimeters clavicle to clavicle and hip to hip, and 35 centimeters from clavicle to hip. So this is all designed to get hits on a human-sized torso at various ranges, quickly, easily, and effectively. You'll notice that they use a system of what's called a belt buckle hold or a navel hold instead of a center mass hold that if you trained with the U.S. military you'd be familiar with. Let's take a look at the front sight. Your front sight post is housed between two ears to protect it from being damaged or moved, and the width of that front sight post will almost exactly match the width of that 25 centimeter by 35 centimeter rectangle at 100 yards. And here's a picture to kind of show you what that looks like. This is a picture of that front sight post with a male torso superimposed over it to give you an idea of what that looks like, and to also show you that you can use the width of your front sight for some down and dirty range estimation. If it's the width of the man's chest, he's roughly 100 meters. If he's half the width, he's 200 meters, a third the width, 300 meters, and just as far out as your eyesight can precisely allow you to go. So we're going to do zeroing, and we're going to use the sights in two different ways. There's a battlefield zero, and then there's also shooting known distance. So let's look at the rear sight. The rear sight is a sight leaf that you adjust to change the elevation of the rear sight, which causes a change in the bore axis of the rifle, which then correlates your point of aim and point of impact at that distance. When you adjust the sights, the increments are 100, 200, 300, and so on and so forth meters, not yards, but meters. The rearwardmost position is indicated by a symbol or a letter. Could be an S, could be a P, could be Arabic writing if it's an Arab model. Here, this is Russian, it's Piesta, which means constant. And this is your battlefield zero. After you've properly zeroed your rifle, you're walking around on patrol, you've got it set at battlefield zero, the enemy can pop up and ambush you at any range. You don't know what it's going to be. But when that happens, with the set at battlefield zero, you aim for the navel or the belt buckle, send your rounds, and they're going to impact somewhere from the navel to the upper chest, depending on are they 10 meters from you or 400 meters from you. But without thinking, without making any adjustments to your rear sight, you can quickly launch combat effective rounds hitting a human-sized target without having to range anything or make any adjustments. This is battlefield zero. If you're going to shoot a known distance, you slide your leaf up to that mark. Here it's set at 1,000 meters. I know y'all shoot at 1,000 meters with iron sights, right? It's not across the line like if you look at the 900 meter line. It's between the spring detent. You just go right up to that line. when you zero for a 7.62 by 39 or AKM rifle, you want to set your rear sight at 300 meters. If you're using 5.45 or an AK-74, you set the rear sight to 400 meters. And this is important because it's all based on what we understand about the ballistic trajectory of those rounds. So you go to the range. If you want to take the time to make up a target, the easiest thing I do is I just buy a target, I flip it over to the back side that's white. If you want to draw the rectangle and all that, that's great. If you want to do the down and dirty version, which I've done repeatedly, you do this. Flip it over. You're going to paint a 25 centimeter line, thick enough that you can see it. You can use a can of spray paint, works great. 25 centimeter width line, and then for whichever caliber you're shooting, you mark a control point dot at either 5.1 inches above or 9.8 inches above. And then once you've set those control points, you start sending your rounds. Look something like this. Take your front sight post, line it up with the line, center it, and you're going to shoot a 4-round group. Now, this is where it gets confusing. Yes, your target is at 100 meters. Yes, your rear sight is not at 100 meters. It's going to be at 300 for 7.62 or 400 for 5.45. So you send a 4-round group. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I know these aren't to scale, but it's to get the idea. Once you've shot 4 rounds, I'm going to show you how you use geometry to calculate your median point of impact. That's what you'll make your adjustments off of. Let's use a little bit more realistic looking group, and one that also helps illustrate the point. So you shoot your 4 rounds. If one round is more than 10 inches away from the rest of the group, throw it out, send another round. Otherwise, you're going to do it like this. It doesn't matter the order of rounds. It only matters from what is closest to your control point, working your way out. So from the control point to our closest impact, we draw a line, and then we're going to divide it with 1 line. From that point, we're going to draw a line to our second closest impact, and we're going to divide it with 2 lines. From the closest to the control point hash mark, we're going to draw a line to our third closest impact, and we're going to divide it with 3 lines. And the process repeats. Take the closest hash mark to the control point and draw a line to the next point of impact, which is your 4th one, your last one. And guess what? You're going to divide it with how many lines? Yep, 4. So that closest intersection on that last line is your median point of impact. This is the point that you'll use to determine how much adjustment you're going to make in windage and elevation. This factors in breathing, wind changes, trigger pull, you jerked one. It creates the average of your impacts and allows for us being human. So now that we know how far we're going to adjust, how does this translate into how we move, how we adjust AK sights? All adjustments are made from the front sight post, both elevation and windage. You will chase your bullet holes, meaning if the bullets hit to the left of where you're aiming, push the sight left. If the bullets hit high from where you're aiming, you raise the front sight post. You chase your bullet holes. So for adjusting windage, left and right, for every millimeter you drift that front sight post, left or right, you'll get approximately 10 inches of movement in your point of impact. It'll vary, and once you zero your rifle, you'll know how your rifle performs. 7, 8, 11, who knows, but you'll figure it out. The easiest way to maintain this, because if you're trying to figure out how you move a 0.5 millimeter on a sight, that you use a tool to simply push a drum back and forth. From the front of the muzzle, there is a line inscribed on the drum and the front sight post. You can see him pushing or pointing here with a pencil. So you can use that to kind of see how you're moving. Just make sure before you get in front of your muzzle, it's cleared, unloaded, chamber flag. You follow whatever rules your range has so they don't flip out on you. So that takes care of your windage. For elevation, you rotate the sight post just like a screw. Screwing it clockwise goes down, counterclockwise comes up. For every one full rotation, you get approximately 8 inches of movement in your point of impact. You can always go back and refer to these later. You can print them out. These, got to give credit to AK Operators Union for these pictures because they're fantastic, and that's why I stole them for you guys to use them. Now, once you make your adjustments, you fire another group of 4, make your adjustments and fire another group of 4 until that median point of impact falls within 2 inches or 40 millimeters of the control point. If you can shoot all 4 rounds within a 2-inch circle around that control point, fantastic. I bet you probably won't, just because of the way the system's designed, and it's not as pinpoint and precise as using a scope or an optic. But once your median point of impact falls within that 2-inch circle, you're good, your rifle's zeroed. At that point, it's on for Battlefield 0, where you aim at the belt buckle and make hits on them anywhere from 0 to 400 or 500 meters without making any adjustments, just by aiming for the belt buckle or the navel. Or if you want to shoot known distance or estimated distance, you know he's 400 meters, set the rear sight on 400 meters, aim for what you want to hit, and your point of impact is your point of aim. All right, bonus feature. You pick up a rifle in the zombie apocalypse, or you're Nakatomi Plaza. How do you know if it's zeroed? Because it's not your gun. Well, pick something 25 meters from you, a wall, a car. Obviously, you want to know you're not going to hit something behind it that you care about, but something that you can shoot at, know where you're aiming, and see your point of impact versus your point of aim. Set your rear sight at 100. Send the shot. The impact should be about an inch below where you're aiming. If that's where you're at, it's zeroed correctly, and you can use it just like we talked about. If it's not on, well, at least you can Kentucky windage it. You know it's a foot high, a foot left, or however, and you Kentucky windage it to shoot your bad guys or your zombies as necessary. I hope this was helpful, and be safe out there.